Welcome everyone. This is our second webinar for the Americas time zone. It's currently 10 a.m. in Florida, 4 p.m. in the Netherlands, where Wim is located. I'm introducing Wim Jongman, the CTO of Remain Software, and he's going to talk about our latest release, 16.1. We had a lot of developments, a lot of exciting new features. So I'm handing it off to Wim.
Thanks, Kirk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this version 16 webinar. I'm very excited about this because this is the first major release towards our future, right? We made a lot of great things, and I can't wait to show it to you and to let you play with it. Okay, some octo popped up there. Okay, so let's get started. So let me give you a little overview of the menu first. The menu, did I say menu? I mean agenda. So we're going to talk about Octo and TDOMS. Octo is our new web development framework, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. That what is very interesting for a lot of people is VS Code and TDOMS. I'm going to tell you something about that. And of course, still many people use RDI in combination with TDOMS. So we also have given some love, and I will tell you all about that. And then our final combination is My Workplace plus TDOMS, which we call TDOMS Studio. And that is basically the lightweight RDI, right? Where we can do everything, editing, change management, and debugging, and all that nice stuff. So this is what I'm going to tell you something about. But let's start with something light, right? I want to get a little bit the stuff started.
The polls unfortunately have stopped working again, Wim, so let's have to answer the poll question in the Q&A, please.
Okay. Well, that's just a pity. We are struggling a little bit with Teams, but I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite superhero, right? It's always a good question, and it tells a lot about a person. Mine is definitely Spider-Man. I grew up with Spider-Man, buying the Marvel comics when I was a kid, and it's been my favorite superhero all along. But I must say, nowadays we have a new superhero, and that is Octo. So here you see our mascot Octo in his daily life. But when Octo turns superhero, he looks like this, right? So don't be fooled. It is actually our Octo. So that's our mascot. Let's talk a little bit about about Octo and what is it? Okay, so what is it? So it's our code name, and it could be a little bit confusing for people saying, okay, what's Octo? Is it the same as TDOMS, and is it a different product, or what is it? Well, Octo actually is a web framework to host apps or plugins that can work together and can also run in VS Code, right? That was basically our mission when we started with Octo. So we wanted to have a new framework to host our DevOps solution, to make a user interface for our DevOps solution through the web, and that got the code name Octo. And Octo stands for Open Core for Technology Orchestration. So basically, Octo is going to be an open core. We are going to put it in the open source, or at least that's the idea at some point. And the technology orchestration means that you can take Octo and you can build your plugins into it. And then you don't have to worry about, all the underlying stuff like communication, like security, like event busing, preferences, all that stuff is being taken care of by Octo. So Octo is like a little bed where we put where we run our software in. So that was the basic idea of Octo. So there's two major workflows in Octo. The first workflow is the setup of Octo. And I'm going to show you that, how you're going to set it up. And that is a one-time thing. So we do that typically with administrators. We help you onboard into Octo, but it is really very simple, as as I will show you. And that is creating a development environment that you give to your developers, right? So one person or two persons, they create the Octo workspaces, then they send a link to the developers, and then the developers can work with Octo, right? With 0 installs and all that stuff. So the first thing that we need to do with Octo is to create an organization. And you probably know that from GitHub, right? You can go to GitHub, you can create your organization, and inside your organization, you have your Git repositories, and you can allow people to work in that organization. The same idea with Octo. So we can create an organization. The organization that we create in Octo is for you, right? So your organization sits in a separate database. It's really a multi-tenant application, and your data is separate from all other data. It's no way that we can accidentally mix that. Once the organization is created, we are going to create one or more workspaces. Then inside the workspaces, we are going to install plugins. And then we are going to create a configuration which points to your IBM I. And after that is done, we are going to send an invitation to our developers and managers and testers and say, okay, this is where you can reach the TDOMS tasks and the objects, and you can promote and do all that stuff. But it's already then pre-configured. So let's take a look at that. Let's do that. So I'm going to open my Firefox, and I go to octo.remainsoftware.com. So octo.remainsoftware.com is our cloud service, our SaaS service that you can use, right? So you don't have to use it. You can also run Octo on premise on your own machines. But if you don't want that, you can also use our Octo as a service. We provide it for you at no extra cost, and you can host your organization here. So you can see there's already a couple of organizations in here. So let's create a new organization. So it's very lightweight and simple. So let's call this TDOMS V16 as the organization name. And I can put in a logo. I will not do that now, but to spice up your organization a little bit. What's the organization email? So all questions about the organization go to that address. And I can create a nice description of my organization, which I will also not do, but you can, of course, imagine that. So it's done. I have created organization. That's it. And what has happened under the hood is that a new database has been created inside Mongo, but that's a technical implementation detail. And that database is called TDOMS V16. And it is separate from all the other databases. So inside here, I'm going to put some of my configuration that will then never be visible for others. So I go in, I click on my organization here, and you can see what you can do, right? You can add users, remove users, edit it, or trash your organization. If you looked at it and you don't like it, then you can just trash it, and all your data is then removed from our service. But I click on the organization, and we get this hint that we have to create a workspace. So a workspace has a name, and let's call that TDOMS, or we can call it DevOps or whatever. But it is we are going to host our TDOMS stuff in here. It is a multiple section layout, and we know that from the RDI and VS Code, right? You have multiple information sections where you can host these plugins, right? That's the idea. So I do a multiple section layout, and I want to do that for the organization. So that means that everybody that is part of my organization is able to access this workspace, right? So create once, and then everybody else can use it. So let me create that one. So now you can see the layout of this workspace, and the next thing to do is install plugins. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to install my TDOMS Work Management plugin. And of course, you say, okay, what is work management? That is something that, of course, you have to learn, but we have a description there as well. But work management basically is the equivalent of the work management that you currently have inside TDOMS. So this is where all your tasks and change requests and Jira tickets and everything will appear. So when I click on a task, I want the information of the task to be visible, and I want that information to be visible on this side. So I'm going to add a new plugin over there, and I'm going to call that the item editor. So that is this one, right? So I get warnings because there's a configuration missing. But we will take a look at that later. So by the way, let me just skip to my my sheet. So create an organization, create one or more workspaces, right? So we created a workspace, and now we're installing plugins inside that workspace. That's what we are doing at the moment. So this big area over here is a really nice spot for the source editor. So we're going to pop that in. And below here, we have a lot of, we can put a lot of informational plugins. For example, I want to maybe see my spool files over here. Spool file plugin. If I want to stack, I can do that. I just press the plus over here. And I want to install the build queue. Let me just install everything. So this is where your compiles are running. And I want to also install the connection list to connect objects to tasks. And basically I have now installed everything that I want in this workspace. So the next thing to do is to create a configuration, because how are these little info panels, how are they getting their data? Well, they're getting the data through a REST service, the TDOMS REST service that we ship with TDOMS version 16. And you can configure the REST service. We have a command for that, and you run it in Apache, and then we can communicate with it. So before we can show anything, we actually have to connect to that REST server. So let's do that. Let's make a configuration, make a new configuration, and I call it dev developments. Right? You can see I can make a configuration for my development machine, maybe for my production machine, and I have to give the API URL to that REST service. So https plato.remainsoftware.com, which is our development IBM I. It's running on port 45311. And the OMS library is called OMS XMP, for example. That's it, right? This is how you create a configuration inside the Octo plugin. So after a refresh, it says, okay, thank you for this workspace and for the plugins and for the configuration. I have made contact to your IBM I, and basically I'm ready to log in and get my data from TDOMS database so that I can display it here. So let's do that. So what happens is the new way, right? So I log in once, get a token, and then I use that token for communication for the rest of the session. So this is how we set up Octo. So on this side, we see our tasks. This is where we will see our sources. If I click on a task, the information of the task will appear here. The plugins, they can communicate to each other. And the components view starts loading. It will be automatically installed if it's not installed. So yeah, it is now ready to be to work on, right? So this is how we configure Octo. So this is what the administrators do. So what we now want to do is we want to invite people. So what we do next is we go back to the admin. So I click on my avatar over here. I go to Octo admin. And I find my organization, and I press the green plus over here. Let me just get it out of the way. So there's a green plus, add people, and I can search users that are already registered in Octo, or I can send an invitation link to people and say, okay, hey guys and girls, click this link, follow the steps, and then you are invited and enrolled in the OMS 16 organization, and you will immediately see this panel, right? So this web development environment. So that is the first workflow that we do to set up Octo. Okay, so let me just go over this a little bit so you have some idea. I can maybe make it a little bit bigger. That's the good thing about browsers, right? We can just press Control scroll. So I'm now at 110%. So what do we see? Well, we see the panels. What is the use of all those icons, right? So there's this one guy or girl standing next to a whiteboard pointing something. I hope you can see that. And that's the plugin help tool. So if you click that, then it says, okay, well, select the programmer of the tasks to show. That is what I can pop down here. Okay, next. What tasks do you want to see? Open, close task, that is what you can select there. And so you can scroll through all the fields and you get a little explanation of each of those icons. You can do that in all plugins, and you can also do that for the Great Octo, right? To take the Great Octo tour. Another thing that we can do is switch off the light like that. So now we are in dark mode, and so switch the light back on. And sometimes I want to have more room in my source editor, and for that I can just remove the side panels by clicking on these icons, right? So now I have a big space for my middle section. If I want to, I can also enlarge a source editor, take it full screen by using this button, right? So this is just a basic navigation of the Octo environment. And it should not be a lot different from what you are used to in RDI and the TDOMS client, right? So that the same principles apply to this application as well. Okay, so and if you have questions, just pop them in the chat, and Kirk will watch it, and he will then post it, or ask me about it. Okay, that is that. So this is the Octo setup. So the next thing that we want to do is, okay, what is now the Octo workflow, right? So what are we going to do when we actually want to work with it? So that's this part of the demonstration. We are going to work with Octo. We're going to create a task. We're going to create a new program. We're going to check out an existing program, edit and compile, take a look at the spool file, compare the sources, see if we have any differences, and then do a promotion in Octo as well. And I think that was the last bullet. So let's take a look at that. So we start here, create a task. So I want to create a task in my example application. So let's refresh that. Okay, so yeah, this is not populated. First time can happen, but the good thing about the browser, right? We can always press F5, and that's basically restarting for RDI. That's the F5. So let me just try it. So now it is filled. There's a lot of little loose threads, and I hope you start working with it and help us clean those up. But this is the example application, and these are all my open tasks. Yeah, and then you can see here the status, right? I can, for example, find all my development tasks or all my new tasks. No, there's none of them. So this is a little quick filter. I can also search, right? So I'm not going to dwell on all those things. They are basically explaining themselves. Okay, so let's create a new task. Well, when you followed the teacher over here, you would know that this is to create a new task. So I'm going to create a new task in my example application, and I'm going to say demo for demo of TDOMS 360 plus Octo. I remember our first wizard for the fix that would have 20 fields that you could fill in. And now we only have 3 fields. And the rest, if you want to change something. So we take all the defaults, and if you want to change something, you can do that in the item editor. So let's click this one, demo of TDOMS v16 plus Octo, right? If I go to the details, now I can change all this stuff over here. Let me just zoom out a little bit. It's a little bit nicer. Yeah, okay, it's a little bit nicer. Okay, so this is our task. So first thing that we wanted to do is to create a new program. This specific application is using branches, right? So branches are is also a fairly new thing in TDOMS, I think since version 14 or 13, something like that, but still a lot of users haven't switched to it. A lot of users still use their own good old development library or their own good old personal development library. But the new thing is, of course, to have each task has their own branch. And I can create a branch here by doing this. So, okay, this is the branch code and this is the name of the branch. So let me just do it like that and do finish. So the branch is created and assigned to the task. So what is a branch? It is basically a isolated development and test environment. So you can create programs in one branch, and another developer can work on the same program in another branch without biting each other. That's the main idea of branching. Okay, but I was going to create a new program, so let's do that. Create new object. So the new object wizard pops up. So what do you want to create? Tell me. So I want to create an RPGLE program, right? So let me just do that, RPGLE. And then I have my new object template. So these are an existing construct in TDOMS. You can create templates that tell you, well, if it is a database, I want the source file to be there, or it has to be an IVEST thing. So this is what we do with templates. So I'm going to create an RPGLE program. I'm going to give it a name XT0562R1, right? Same name as the task. And I'm going to call this Hello World, the Hello World RPG program. So let's finish. Going back to the solutions over here. And an object has been attached to my task inside my O_XT0562D development library. So opening this up, there's already a little template, right? So we are using ILE docs, obviously. ILE docs is the standard documentation method in ILE. Even IBM is now adding support for it inside VS Code, so it's nice. So yeah, typically you would describe here what this program does is saying hello, right? So that is the information we get here. And yeah, it's already filled in, default activation group, no, main method, and I get this display hello. So yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it either by pressing Ctrl S or pressing this icon over here. But let me just press Ctrl S. And source code saved successfully, and it is placed in the compile queue. That is what this message says over here. So let's go to the compile queue, to the build queue. Yes, indeed, it's waiting this program to be compiled, and I can release it, and it is compiled successfully, green tick. I can also make an error, right? I can just forget to take that semicolon. It's again queued for compilation. So every time I save, TDOMS says, okay, fine, I'm going to compile it. So it's a really fast development cycle here. Oh, I have an error. Okay, what's wrong? So at the moment, for this version of Octo, we do not have yet the event file, but that's what we're working on. So for now, we have to just go to the spool files, do a refresh here, and I can just double click on my spool file over here, and I see my spool file. And also see how how fast it is to get all that stuff, right? So the REST services that we created with our own product, Open API Studio, it's just unbelievable how fast they are. It's just fantastic. So this is the spool file. I can make a little outline of that as well. So this is my whole spool file. Let's jump to the error section. The end of an expression is expected. Okay, thank you. And then I can go back to my source and put that in, Control S, and add it to the build queue again. Build queue, release the build queue, and it is compiled again, right? So this is your day-to-day workflow for a developer. So we created a new program, but what we also want to do is check out an existing program or an existing database, right? It doesn't really matter. So I go to my components. Sorry about that. And now I can search, right? So I can search customer maintenance, for example. Maintenance.pgm. And it will just Google for that, right? So if I want to have full screen here, I can do that. So I have more room here. So I like this program, OMS 16.1. I am going to connect this. Okay, so it's added to the connection list. Let's zoom out again. Go to the connection list. There is one object attached to it. I can press my shopping cart. And now my program is attached to my task. It's in prod still, right? So if I now click it, I cannot edit it. It will be read only, but I can check it out like this. So check out OMS 16.1. This wizard is also very, very fast now. Yeah, that's just the advantage of REST, right? You don't have to go through a JDBC engine and through the network and do all kind of difficult stuff. It goes to the RPG hardware directly, and that's why it's so fast. So I do a checkout. You maybe see a little running man over there. It's color's not all that bright, but that is a yellow running man. And if I press refresh, it is in dev. And if I press refresh here, then we can see that this one is also in development. So I can just click on that and edit it like that. And let's just make one change. What is it? Control oops, no, duplicate line. I'm not completely certain about the shortcut keys of the editor yet. So this is the same editor that is being used in VS Code. That's the Monaco editor, right? Not something that we wrote ourselves. This is really an industry standard editor. So I'm going to save it. Obviously, this will not compile because the same field has been declared. Oh, actually, it does compile. That's interesting. Why would that compile? That's really interesting. Let's try it again. Okay, didn't know that that was possible. Okay, so now we compiled the program, and what we can do next is edit and compile. That's already what I did, right? Spool files is something I showed you already, and we have something like the compare sources. So I can go in here, OMS 16.1, and say, okay, compare this program that I have in my task over here with production. And it says, okay, yeah, you added that line, right? So that's how simple this is to see the differences between this version and the previous version. Okay, so yeah, that's that. I can close my sources, and basically I'm ready to promote this to the test environment, but I'm going to wait with that because we have another nice feature in Octo that I want to showcase as well. Promote, all right, I did a checkout, but the promote indeed, okay, let's go. Let me close this one and then promote from here. That's that. So you go from dev to test. It says it here, go from dev to test. Everything is fine. So press finish and the promotion will take place. So yeah, it's in test. And now you can see that red flag over there. And that red flag means this needs to be ratified before it can be promoted to the next environment. So yeah, that is something maybe that my manager must do, or my peers, they must tell that everything is fine. Everything is fine with this task. But red means that it cannot proceed until it has been ratified, until somebody gave the signature, the sign off for that task. Okay, brilliant. So what are the benefits of Octo? Obviously, easy access, right? I send you a link, you click on it, and you can start developing. That's beautiful. Also, everything is linked inside Octo. So if I want to go to my manager and say, hey, Miss Manager, can you please ratify my task or sign off my task? Then maybe she had to go to RDI or to the green screen, open stuff, and do jump through hoops. So, and that maybe is a threshold, right? It slows the whole process down. But we want to be fast. So it says everything has links. So what we can do is we can send that manager a link to the task and say, okay, go ahead and ratify this. So this works like this. I can go in and I can say copy task link. I can compose an email and send that to my manager. The manager gets the link, clicks on it, and opens it in the browser. Let me just find a new tab over here, pastes it, and the item edits it. I'm not sure what this is, but the item is shown here, and the manager can take a look at this, right? Also from here, I can compare my source. I can do everything. And I can take a look at the details of the task. That was what was missing, I think. Okay, and this sounds familiar. But here indeed is the ratification. And you can see the tab here is, if I go out, the tab is solutions, but I can also make it like this, say tab is ratification, so that it immediately opens on this tab. Okay, so go ahead. Okay, I spelled it wrong, but that it immediately opens here. So now the manager just goes in here, or the peer says, yes, looks great. Or as we say in code speak, LGTM, looks good to me. And then we do finish and I get one signature. I still need a signature from my testing framework, right? So that could be an automated process that will automatically, after the tests have run green, to automatically sign off on that task before it actually gets released to go to the next environment, right? So there's a lot of things that we can add to our DevOps pipeline once we start maturing in that environment. So this is that linkable stuff. I can also open this and click on this source and then get a link to that source and copy it and send that to my coworker. Say, hey, can you take a look at this source? Or what does this mean on line 20? Just send the link and the peer or your colleague clicks on it and it opens the source in that same way. I can also make a link of the complete workspace. So I can this whole configuration, I can, I'm working on task 562. I have this source open and I make a snapshot of that. I start working on something else, and then I can go back to my previous link and activate that previous workspace again, right? So everything in Octo is linkable, and yeah, that is a nice idea, I think.
There is a new question, and
yeah.
when will the event file support be available?
We are working on it right now, and that should, so we already have the REST API. And the event file support should be available in version 17 milestone 1. So that's anywhere between now and I think end of September. That is when we are going to deliver
16,
that.
I think you said 17. You mean 16.1 milestone 1.
No, so we are now version 16.1. The next code cycle is version 17.
Okay.
So we get the next release is version 17, milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3, and then we get version 17.1. That is how we number all those things.
Thanks
So
for the
the next,
clarification.
yeah. So the next run will be version 17, milestone 1, and we keep pushing on this, right? So we are now, we have a lot of developers trained in Octo, so this is going to be a blast. We're going to add a lot of things. And please also the community help us, right? Tell us what you want, and we can't wait to implement it. The link, send your state to your peer, ask a manager for ratification or promotion, right? Can you promote this task? Just send a link to the task and they can promote it. Save a workspace for later, right? Those are the examples that I've shown, and the good thing is it works on the web and in VS Code, so that is just wonderful. And talking about and also potentially works from RDI, right? We have not really started working on that, but you can open the link from RDI, not a problem at all. So you can make a user option with a link, open in Octo. And because it's just a link, it will open the browser and bring you to Octo for that specific element. All right, that's the benefits. So we did the setup, right? So how do I configure Octo? Then we did a run through of the normal workflow, which is very similar to what you are currently used to in RDI. It's just easier. And of course, we learned a lot from what is complex in RDI, and we want to avoid all those mistakes going forward in Octo. But otherwise, it is the same global concepts. Okay, another thing about Octo Analytics. Let me just first, I'm not sure, let me just see if I have a sheet about, I have a sheet about VS Code. So you can see I don't have a lot of sheets left, so that's good news. We also have some analytics on board. And the analytics is KPIs, key performance indicators. How is your DevOps organization doing at the moment? What are the problems that we see in your DevOps environment? So let me tell you a little bit about that in a bit. We have Kanban, right? So we have the list of tasks, but that's obviously very boring. We want to see the Kanban of tasks, right? That is just so much nicer. And we have a graphical impact analysis that I'm going to also show you. Okay, so let me just go back to that one and take a look first at this key performance indicators. So we have an analytics plugin in Octo, and that is typically served best in a new workspace. So I'm going to create a new workspace here. I'm going to call it analytics. Okay, it's already prompting me for that. It's a one-section layout. And I can choose if this is private or organization-wide, right? If you don't want your people to see the KPIs, then you make it private. Otherwise, you make it organization-wide so everybody can access it. I'm all for transparency, so I'm making it a org-wide one. So I'm going to install the plugin, and the plugin is the analytics plugin, TDOMS Analytics. And that already tells me there's something wrong in my example application, in my configuration. So I'm not going to dwell on all these things. Let me just talk about this as an example, right? So this is tasks in development. So we have told Octo that we can only have every developer can only have maximum 5 open tasks, right? That's maybe even a little bit too much already. Once one developer goes over this threshold, this will appear in the warning section. So this is what I want to manage. I want to I want to make sure that we don't get overloaded developers that have too much on their plate, right? So, well, I can already see that this is not really totally healthy according to my key performance indicator. And especially this guy has 16 tasks in development, right? So that's a real HD person, starts something but never finishes it, right? So that is maybe typical for me, but I don't know. But anyway, this is how you would see that. So there's a lot of those sheets that can pop up here, and you want to keep this page empty, right? You get a nice reward, a view if it's empty, and that is what you want to see all day. Besides of the warnings, we have many other infographics. So, for example, the transfer status, right? So red is good in this case, that is success, and this is failures. So how many objects were successful and failing? So we have a very good May, 350 objects promoted and only 1 or 2 failed, right? So, and the failure is basically the failure to promote to the next environment. So yeah, you can see these things. This is also something that is very interesting. This is the hotspot in your object. So these are the objects that are being maintained, changed for the most over the last 3 years. So this object, what's wrong with it, right? So it has been changed 12 times already. What's wrong with this program? So this is how you can analyze your rotten things in your code base and reorganize, refactor that code so that it doesn't get changed that much anymore. So that is this one. So there's a lot more, but you can just look at those. Then we have Kanban, also a fantastic tool. We can make a separate workspace for Kanban. Let's just do that. So I make it a 1-section layout again, organization-wide. I'm going to create it. Oh yeah, of course. That is Kanban. Create that. And I'm going to install a plugin, right? You already get the drill. You have to create a workspace and then fill that with plugins. This is our Kanban boards. And what I'm going to do is, we have this demo board already, right? So this demo board you can play around with to get a little bit of training on it. But you also want to make a configuration for your Kanban provider. That's currently the only one that has a different configuration, but let me add that. So I'm going to call that development as well. And it has a slightly different URL. Plato.remainsoftware.com 45311 OMS XMP and OMK-bar. That's the only difference. I have to add this. Reasons why this is a separate configuration. I will not bother you with that, and we will probably change that as well in the future. But anyway, I now have a new provider, and that's called development. And if I pop that thing up and go to my milestone 3, so this is basically all your releases that you are currently working with, and you can categorize your task in a specific release. That's the idea. And I have categorized our task that we just created. Demo of TDOMS v16, let me just make this a little bit smaller, is now in test, right? So this one is sitting in test, and yeah, if I want to deploy it, the only thing I have to do is just drag it from test to int, and that's it. Well, obviously we cannot do it because we got an error. It says the task is not completely ratified, so I cannot promote it, but this is how you would do the deployment, right? So I can drag it back to dev. That's possible. So let's do that. I'm going to drag it back to development. Being moved. It's okay. So let me just refresh it because it's a batch job in the end, right? That whole deployment thing. And indeed, demo of TDOMS v16 plus Octo is now back inside the development environment. So I can go back to my TDOMS workspace and refresh. Oh, it was already loaded, refreshing. And you can see now it's back in dev, and I can start working on this thing again. So I can promote here, but I can also go to my Kanban. And then drop that from dev to test. Of course, I can always go to test. It's just that next part that is blocking, and yeah, it's done. It is now inside test. So you can also imagine that if you have people that are responsible for the deployment in your team, they don't want to mess around with a task and then option 11 and right. So they want to just drag and drop. Okay, that's what I have to do. I drag it from this environment to that environment. That's my capability, but I don't want to know the defaults of the details of the implementation of the promotion. So this is how you can do that. And plus it gives you a really nice overview of the state of your project. Okay, so that is Kanban. All right. Yeah, then let me just quickly do that. That's the graphical impact analysis. We're still working on that. So you're seeing and we just wanted to ship something, right? So I wanted to see some dependencies. So if I take, for example, my customer maintenance program, OMH 011, why don't I see that? Let me try that again. OMH 011. Yeah, that's better. And I can add production to it. Stop PRD. There it is. Custom maintenance. One person working on it, this little one, yeah. And I can just open this and show the dependencies chart. And it will pop up the chart like this. It says, okay, this is your program. It is using display files, logicals, physicals, and yeah, you get the complete explosion of all the dependencies of this object. Okay. Nice. Let's move on. VS Code. That's here. So I'm working here in VS Code. I can have local projects like this one. It's a little TypeScript thingy. I can have my IBM I code, right? Open my service and IFS and pop them up from there and start editing them. And now we have a third option, and that is TDOMS. So how do I get TDOMS inside Octo? Well, it's easy. You go to your extensions. And then inside extensions, you just search for remain or TDOMS. And there is Octo TDOMS, right? That is what you have to install. It has a nice little README there. And this is how you install it. But if you want to get it running, you need to have an organization on a Octo server, right? So we are going to that Octo server, to your organization, to make sure that you are a TDOMS person, right? And access your data in a secure way. This is how we do it. So we go into this TDOMS icon. I'm in work management. I can log in again. And here are my tasks, but now in a VS Code context. So that's nice. So if I click on a task, I can see my components that are attached to the task. It will also fill in the spool files that we now have available. So the spool file, the build queue, the components view, everything that we have inside Octo is also available here inside VS Code. So yeah, here's my program. That is this hello world thing, right? And now I'm editing it inside VS Code using all that good stuff from the Code for I, right? So we're reusing a lot of that stuff to give you the same, experience and outline. There's only one procedure here at the moment. But you will see the outline view. You have your convert to free format options over there. So everything that is available inside Code for I in the editor is also available here. And the rest as well. So if I say, great, that's good news. I'm done with my task. So let's go and open the Kanban boards. Then here they are, right? So I can just promote like that. I still want to do some development on this thing. So let me get that back into development, because if I'm opening it from test, I will get it as read only, right? I cannot change it. So I cannot accidentally change stuff that is not in development. Now if I'm in work management and I open my task again, refresh it, and then I should be able to edit that. And now I can add some code to it. All right, so yeah, that is the function. So the good thing for us, right? So we are not putting all our eggs in one basket anymore. We firmly believe that we have the web as the future for the next 15 years at least, and everything that we do in a side way now. VS Code is the big thing at the moment, but maybe in 5 years time something else will be there, and we want to make sure that we can reuse the code that we are making, right, and not have to invent the wheel again like we have to do now for the RDI to web and VS Code transition. Okay, this is all the new stuff. Any questions? If not, and you're still awake, then let's do the last bit, and those are the TDOMS, RDI, and GUI enhancements. So I'm just going over the main things. There's a lot that we did there, and also on the server side that is worth checking out. We maintain the release notes on the wiki, which contain everything that we did, right? Every change that we made is documented, and you can just go ahead and read through it and see if there's more interesting stuff for you. So the definitions view is inside our client, inside our rich client, and that enables us to create applications, environments inside the application, like development over here, change the compilation libraries, edit ratification groups, all stuff we can do over here, add remote locations, right? So the complete configuration of TDOMS will be pulled out from the green screen. I mean, it will stay there, right? But we are making an API out of the complete backend, and then we are calling the API from this configuration client. So that is what you have in version 16 as well. So check that out. We have compared with production. I already showed you that in Octo, but we also have it in TDOMS client. So I can go to my task. Let me just refresh it here to pop up my demo. And I can say here, compare with production. And that's much easier, right? That's what you want to see most of the time, is you compare with production. So I can see that I added this field to the program. So that's a nice edit feature as well. Solutions view. If people are working with big tasks, right, hundreds of programs, then this tree view is not very nice, because it takes time to load. Every time you do something, it refreshes again. So that is a little bit of a bad thing. So what we did is we have the capability now to hide the solutions from the task through the preferences. So I can go to my user interface and say solutions, default solutions, yes. And if I press apply here, and don't I get an automatic refresh? Apparently not. Do I have to do it like this then, or did not set that selection correctly? Let me go back. Default solutions on the task, yes. Okay, not sure what this is. My dev environment, so don't worry about it. But the solutions are then grouped over here and not anymore below my task. So then we have a new view, which is the solutions view. And this is all the objects of that task in a view, right? And then I can sort it and filter it a lot quicker. And all the options are available here as well, like edit and compile, right? If I double click here, it will open in the editor and I can start coding on it. Okay, solutions view. And YouTube integration. So to onboard people, we have like 1 million pages of manuals. That is something that people don't do anymore, right? Reading manuals. Then we have the F1 key everywhere, right? So, okay, what is this view about? Well, we have help. You can read about the work management view, but yeah, I can also imagine that people already get tired when they see how much data this is, right? So maybe also not a good idea, although I do like to read these kind of things. So the next thing is, okay, let's make little videos. So that is now this option we have. And if I want to know about the work management view, I click here and I get a 2-minute talk about the TDOMS work management view, just explained quickly what this thing can do. And I don't have to read then. Okay, so that's the YouTube integration. And then as the pièce de résistance is ChatGPT plus TDOMS. So you already know that we have made a chat client, AI chat client inside RDI and TDOMS that you can use as a co-pilot, right? So not only VS Code as a co-pilot, we also built one for RDI. You can download it for free and it is included in our products. But we are now working with a TDOMS aware ChatGPT client. So let me open that, chatgpt.com. Where is my TDOMS client? It looks like it has a little bit of a network problem. Yeah, there we are. So now we have the TDOMS assistant. If you're using ChatGPT, let me know. I can send you the link to this client so that you can use it. You need to have your ChatGPT key. How we're going to make this available is not completely sure yet, but this is already trained in TDOMS. So I click this one and I say, for example, how do I create a task? And then it knows about TDOMS and it will go into the TDOMS context and say, oh, to create a task in the GUI, you can do it like this. Using the green screen, you can do it like that. And let's see if using the API, you can do it like that as well. It gives you complete instructions on how to do that. And so this is for people that just want to ask a question and get an immediate answer, right? It's just amazing. And let me just ask, what about Octo? Does he already know about that? Okay, so yeah, of course, there's a lot of Octo manuals that we still need to integrate, but yeah, I mean, it already knows a lot about that. So this is beautiful, right? This is just one of the things that is beautiful in ChatGPT, that you can teach it with your own data, and that it becomes just a beautiful assistant. All right, that's it. I think I'm right on time. Everything that I wanted to explain to you is done, I think. And that's a big thank you from me to you for paying attention. And I hope you find this inspiring and worth to install TDOMS version 16.1 and give all this new stuff a spin. Kirk, how are we doing with the questions?
And I just like we got all the questions covered. I just like to add, if you're not already a TDOMS user and like to have a demo, please reach out to us. You can reach out Wim is wim.jongman at remainsoftware.com, or myself, which is kirk.francis at remainsoftware.com. I'll be following up this webinar with an email with the recording in case you guys missed it or had to step away. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks so much.